Welcome. We are going to do a little workshop for an hour, and then we're going to have drinks for another hour. The bar is already open, so if you're thirsty, go get a drink. It's on us, I guess, especially Gilad. We're just going to talk about tokenization. We're going to talk about blockchain technology. I'm going to kick us off in a little bit, try to create a little context setting so that we all have some shared context before going into the actual work that we're doing in this workshop, which is a song by Sound of Fractures. So this is Jamie, his artist name is Sound of Fractures. He made a song that's been remixed through Inder's KOR protocol and will be published and distributed and tokenized. The royalties will be tokenized through Gilad or Original Works protocol. And then after that, we're going to do a little discussion about what this means for our music industry. And then Alex is going to join us during that part as well. So don't worry if you think that he's not saying so much in the beginning. That was planned. And I'm Maarten, and I write a newsletter called Music X, which you should all subscribe to, of course. So I've just wanted to know if there's what kind of people we have in the room. So raise your hand if you're an artist. Cool. Raise your hand if you're with a label. A couple of label people. Raise your hand if you're in tech. Most people, nice. All right. And raise your hand if you're with a CMO, because I see you. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to take us back in time a little bit, about 10 years, 9 years, 8 years, something like that. The early promise of the blockchain. There were a couple of early startups who said, we're going to fix this thing called the music industry. We're going to fix it. And the idea was to put everything in the music industry on a decentralized database of the blockchain, and it would fix everything. There were a couple of early startups. One of them is actually still around, Blocure, Top Blockchain, and Jack, no longer with us. They started out by trying to fix disputes that existed in the music industry when it comes to copyright and data. And this didn't actually work. Mostly because the technology wasn't yet ready. The Ethereum blockchain was slow. If you wanted to transact on the Ethereum blockchain, it was very expensive. You had to pay gas fees. So it basically didn't work, and nor did anybody in the music industry really want to play ball yet. So why is nobody playing ball? We have CMOs who kept their focus on decentralized databases. There was on centralized databases. Sorry, there's been some fun experiments. For example, with Teosto, the Finnish CMO. Since then, a lot has changed, and one of the things that's changing is something that I refer to as story-based IP, which is intellectual property that doesn't stay solid. Right, it keeps changing. And this is something that we see happening a lot in the music industry, and especially on recorded music. Traditionally, we've been used to putting out the finished product, and that's it. But now with changing ways of consumption, we see that IP doesn't remain solid, but stays under change. So this is partly due because listeners are becoming what's often referred to as players. So they become creators themselves. So listeners are people who do laid-back listening. They are happy with their streaming service. They're happy with playlists. Players like to remix. They like to remodel. They like to speed up, slow down, all of that sort of stuff. And to be able to take advantage of that, you need self-custody of rights. So you need to retain ownership of everything that you do. And you have to build community. And something that we can call pocket publics. So you have little bits of publics, little bits of audiences here and there that like to do certain specific things with your music. And that way you get distributed IP through all these stems and remixes and different versions, projects started, not finished, etc., etc. Revenues can then come from rights allocation, revenue sharing through splits, and royalties can become a currency between all different players that are involved. So how to build this story-based IP? Well, it starts with a song. Jamie.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I work out the name Sound of Fractures, and I'm an electronic music artist. I've also become an educator and a researcher at the same time, as we're all juggling many things. And I guess my story as a solo artist, other than a music producer, which I was for a long time, came about of sort of experimenting with what else a music career could be. And that included trying to explore something outside of, basically Spotify, right? But outside of distributing, pitching to Spotify, posting out now, posting some reels, and then just doing that over and over and over again. And particularly the problems with like algorithms and social media platforms became very interesting to me. And I kind of set out on a journey of doing a lot of experiments. And some of those experiments were on the blockchain, because at that time, it was a very kind of gray space where you could do a lot of things. If you owned all your copyright and you owned all your publishing, where you could do a lot of interesting things, which I couldn't do elsewhere, including like bundling different types of media together, many different things. But one of the things that I did was crowdfund a project that I wanted to make that was very hard to fund because it didn't fit into very neat boxes. And the main reason that I'm here is because a lot of what those experiments ended up being was like co-creation experiments with my fans. So even with like a small niche group of fans, I started to like co-create and work on projects with fans and bring them into sort of chat groups and make them part of the creative process, including funding the music, being a part of decision-making, and actually co-creating works of art with them based on the music. And I built a website for my album where people could come and submit their memories, and in return, I would make them like a custom piece of artwork out of a memory from their life. And the whole idea was to kind of like elicit a connection between the music and a memory, because we all love music, we cry to it, we get married to it, it reminds of us the best time of our lives. And the experiment was like, can I elicit that connection at a time when every electronic music artist is the same and everyone has the same connection and uses the same interfaces and the same products to build relationships and connect with their audience. So my idea was, if I can create a memory with you and connect with you on a personal level, what does that do for our relationship? Does that build like a stronger relationship where you come back and buy my merch or help co-fund my album? And I managed to raise like £8,000 to put out this project, create the website before it was built. So people will, like I was pitching the idea to my audience, and hopefully they got something of emotional value back. And that's kind of why I'm here, because I've continued that. And that idea has become like a big central kind of use case for what this super fan argument is for like the next few years in also like the major label industry, is like, how do we build these strong connections with fans?
And the song that we're going to listen to and talk about is from this Scenes project.
It's kind of like an add-on. Yeah, it's like a continuation of the experiment. When we started talking with Inder and everybody, it seemed like a very logical conclusion. The first stage was to kind of create these memories and connections, and the next step is to go a bit further. Instead of just like collaborating conceptually with like my fans, is to collaborate like musically. So like the next step is like interesting is, what if I go to these people who I have a very strong emotional bond with my music and give them the music to play with the music and make versions of the songs that they can have some kind of sense of ownership of, which we've tried lots of times, but the protocol and what KOR does makes that very sort of intuitive and easy. And there's a lot of different things, especially in terms of accounting for me as a musician, that really change when I can use some of these tools.
Can you maybe tell us a little bit more about some of the challenges that you face as an independent artist?
Where do I start? There's so many challenges, but one of the interesting things I think for me at the moment is we kind of all have a good sense of the things that aren't working well, or are challenging, maybe is a better phrase, because they're working well for some people. And that is that we have a lot of black boxes, especially in terms of data when it comes to how we build relationships with our audience. And we have a lot of problems with how we build connections with our audience, strong connections that allow us to like monetize our work outside of like streaming. So along with that comes, the fact that the back-end systems we use are built for something else than what I'm doing, right? So, even if I do a remix for somebody, I have to get them to account and pay me. And if someone does a remix for me, for example, it may not stream very much, especially if it's like a competition with my fan base. But I still technically, if they request it, have to account every year for like £1.53.004 for the rest of, legally, technically for the rest of my life. Right, and I've got productions with millions of views on for people that I still have to request every year that I invoice them and ask them for what it is. And there's a lot of those like legacy models that are manageable because of the scale. But when you involve like fans and audience members, and theoretically, if I got 100 fans to do a version of a song that they wanted to do something with, that would be impossible with that system, or at least I would need an accountant just for that job.
All right, Inder. Can we go to you?
Full screen it for me, please. Great to be here. I'm Inder, the CEO and co-founder of a company called Pixelinx. We are the labs development company behind the KOR protocol. KOR protocol is basically an IP infrastructure that allows artists, labels, franchises like Black Mirror across broad spectrum of entertainment to basically register their intellectual property, their assets, and let people play, create, and remix them. And we'll show you a little demo that we've done with Jamie, and we're also integrated with the Original Works protocol to really basically build a full end-to-end ecosystem that enables registration of assets, remixing, royalty collection, tracking, and attribution. The ecosystem that we've built is founded by myself, Deadmau5, Richie Horton. We have Imogen Heap and Disclosure, who've also joined as advisors, and a whole network of investors from sort of blockchain, gaming industry primarily. Some of the biggest challenges that we see existing for artists and rights holders right now is, on the one hand, you have multi-billion-dollar AI companies building global organizations off the back of other people's intellectual property and claiming that there is basically a backdoor for them to build these models, these companies, without fair attribution. And we believe that there is a real problem that needs to be solved here as we enter a post-AI world. All of the rights holders we work with, whether it's Black Mirror, whether it's an emerging artist or a label, they want to tap into the potential of the future. They want to use AI, they want to use blockchain, but they need infrastructure that gives them transparency and a seamless way to come onto these new tools whilst having a level of control. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have developers, creators. They want to remix IP, right? They want to bring new music into their platforms. They want to play around with different intellectual property, but again, not have to go through a process of 6 to 12 months of contract negotiation just to get a basic deal done. And we think the blockchain can really provide a incredible, I'm trying to click next here. I'm not sure if it's working. Here we go. We think the blockchain can provide a huge solution for this as a system that allows people to work together in a permissionless environment. It allows me to build products on top of the Black Mirror franchise without needing to go through 12 months of negotiation with them. They've already put their licenses on the blockchain. They've already set the rules of engagement. And I, as a developer or creator, can collaborate with that IP, for example, completely seamlessly. And I use Black Mirror as an example, but we're working across the spectrum of entertainment. We have music, film, TV, gaming partners who are registering their assets on the KOR protocol. Those include songs, characters, scripts, 3D assets. And that's basically the first step, register your assets. We then have a whole suite of tools, AI engines, blockchain minting technology, that basically lets people play with these assets in a seamless kind of permissionless environment. And then most important is distribution. Anything that's made within the KOR protocol has a set of metadata standards and distribution points to make sure that these new assets can be monetized and tracked. And the work we're doing with the Original Works protocol is really going to showcase that end-to-end, where an artist can register a song, let their fans remix it, and then track those royalties and new usage rights at the end So yeah, this is a little bit about what we're doing. We've got a huge network that we've been building up, partners across the whole entertainment landscape, from IP holders, protocols, creator tools, and a number of different products that we're launching as well. Some incredible advisors, super blessed to work with artists like Imogen Heap, Dixon, Richie Horton, all, very much thought leaders and futurists when it comes to how they think, the future of music consumption is going to look. And let me see, I think I skipped one slide. We have no, I didn't. Here we go. So yeah, the foundation of it is these IP libraries. Artists, IP holders register their assets. They can then enable them for usage in different products, whether it's an AI engine, whether it's direct distribution into games. We've got a whole network reaching over hundreds of millions of users, where once your assets are registered, they can be consumed and monetized across new formats of interactive media. And some of the ones we'll show you now, we'll show you a platform called Chorus. It's a remix platform. Jamie Sound of Fractures put a song in there, and you'll be able to see how easy it is for anyone to remix that song and then even have the commercial rights to potentially distribute it. We have other products as well. We've got games, so you can register a song on our product and immediately turn it into a rhythm game, for example. And there's hundreds of other developers building on this ecosystem to basically enable IP that gets registered, like I said, whether it's a song or a video, to be consumed in a whole universe of different kind of connected applications and products. So this will give you a little demo. You can probably put the music on this one. Got the audio. So that's just an example of one song that's being remixed almost infinitely. New stems are being attached to it. There's a VJ pack where you can actually play around and make little visuals yourself. And anything I create at the end has the underlying metadata attached to it. So it tells me it's Jamie's songs, it's Jamie's stems, but also then has my information as an artist, as a new creator attached, whether I'm a fan or a remixer, for example. And what we'll show now is how a song generated in a platform like Chorus can then move through the music industry ecosystem, making sure all of the core metadata, royalties, licenses, core ownership information is basically tracked, so it can then be monetized in different formats as well.
Thank you. Before we go over to Gilad, Jamie, can you do a quick reflection on the process that we've just seen?
Sure. I mean, I've got family members who are playing around with Suno and other things. I think it's definitely got a lot of us thinking about like how we fit into the stuff that comes next. And I think this is like a great example of it, really. Like for me as a producer, I was messing around with it. It can give me like new ideas, new different arrangements, like different ideas for instrument parts that I hadn't thought of. It's like very flexible, actually. Like I can export the stems if I wanted to take into my DAW and like chop things around and move things around, or I can just keep generating forever. But it places like me, the creator, in this process that seems like so scary to so many musicians at the moment. And it places you in a way where your IP is recognized. And I think that is very important. Because, this, and it also just, it's another way for me to build connections with people that are my fans, is for them to be able to have some kind of like, what is essentially ending up becoming like a physical connection to making music with me in a kind of way, with me sort of with the things that they already have an attachment to. And they may take that further, or it may just be like a fun interaction. But everything that anyone does, as musicians will know, counts. It's like emotional capital. You're like constantly trying to like build this emotional capital with these people, with you, with everybody, that makes them want to come back for more and support you.
Thank you. All right. Gilad, quick intro and...
Yes. All right. So yeah, being cognizant of time, because this is also a workshop, we're going to actually show you how we register the output of this process on chain. And can I grab the remote? Thank you. So,
And
just to give you the right context,
you're Gilad Woltsovitch and your role at
exactly.
Original Works.
So I'll give you the context. Original Works is a decentralized protocol that is actually now launching out of its incubation period. And it has been incubated within Revelator. So Revelator Labs, which is the department I run within Revelator, is where we've been exploring these on-chain solutions. And Revelator as a distributor has been around for more than a decade now. It's not very much in the forefront. It's a very classic B2B SaaS company, so a lot of you might not have heard about it. But it's been doing digital distribution for, I think, 11 years now. And our goal is to really streamline this and make the title of this talk is about the fragmentation of the music industry, and as Jamie put it, these black boxes and databases. So just to reconnect it to the beginning of this presentation, as Maarten and discussed, there were a lot of ideas to create a decentralized database, and it sounds like a very straightforward solution. But the music industry is also founded on service providers who provide a lot of value for artists and creators who just want to make music. And artists like Jamie or like deadmau5, who are very entrepreneurial, help pushing the envelope forward. But a lot of the mainstream creators would prefer to make music and trust that the distributors, the CMOs, and everybody are operating in their best interest. And as such, we designed the Original Works protocol as a solution for the existing music industry rather than trying to replace it. So the very first step, and what we will be showcasing today, is splitting the royalty payments on chain. So as you heard from Inder, KOR takes care of recording all of the ownership information, and one concept in blockchain is called composability. The fact that we're using the same standards of smart contracts allows us to take the output from the core protocol and use that as an input for the Original Works protocol, which essentially today takes care of the split of all the streaming royalties. We are now, as I said, graduating outside of Revelator Labs, and we are launching Original Works as an independent, open source, nonprofit foundation, and actually bringing in direct competitors from Revelator to become what we call in the blockchain world oracles. So the businesses in charge of recording data from the real world and putting it on chain. And if you could please move to the next slide. Thank you very much. So just like we're bridging assets that are being distributed today on Revelator and putting them on chain, we're also allowing what we call digital native IP created on platforms like KOR. If they want to monetize royalties on chain, it's pretty simple, right? Because it's composable. So you can track the usage and make payments on chain. But imagine somebody monetizing the same IP that was created on KOR in what we call the real world, right? Then you will have to collect royalties in US dollars and pay it back to all the different wallets that created the track, right? Nobody expects core protocol to trace down all the different blockchain users and start paying them on PayPal their 0.5% or whatever. So that's where we come in. And then just the last slide, please. Thank you very much. So as we'll just show you now, the solution we have today is the prototype developed by Revelator and fully operational in what we call mainnet. So that's in the main Ethereum network. We use Base as a layer 2, which is just very much, I think, 100 times cheaper than Ethereum. As Jamie mentioned, the industry has evolved a lot. And layer 2 basically is a stack that allows us to write information on the public blockchain for much, much, much less cost. And now it became a reality. And so the protocol that we're launching will enable much more privacy and also allows it to do it much more efficiently at cost. And at the end of the day, we believe that the entire supply chain can connect in that square there. And there are a lot of ways and methods to incentivize all of the data providers to keep the records up to date. And essentially, we're not trying to build one global database, but what we call a global registry. So every distributor, CMO, PRO can manage their own database, but we ingest what the industry calls DDEX. I assume you all know what DDEX is. It's something that was not feasible to register on chain. Today, because of layer 2s and what we call proto-dank sharding in technical terms, allows us to incentivize anybody to run our open source software and be part of verifying the 100,000 songs that are being distributed every day throughout the digital music ecosystem. So it's a very powerful concept where you allow the service providers to continue doing their job as they do, just send DDEX like they do to Spotify, but there's a decentralized protocol that is incentivized to make sure there's no conflicting claims. So every asset is recorded uniquely, and an asset is also something that's very, let's say it's a very malleable term, because an asset could be a specific license for a specific right in a specific country. And that's something that the protocol, because of the shared infrastructure, allows us to disambiguate pretty seamlessly. So without further ado, if we can hop onto the laptop, I will just show you a very quick example. What we're seeing here is the Web 2 interface of Revelator Pro, which is the UI in which our labels, distributors can basically distribute music to over 40 DSPs worldwide. This track is the Chorus Remix, and you can see I have all the metadata here, and this is a complete Web 2 experience. Now, because this account, which is the Revelator Labs account, enables tokenization, I have this module from the Original Works protocol, and as a label, I can decide how stringent the requirements are. I can decide to allow the asset to be tokenized only after it's been distributed and verified. I can have a more open approach where anything can be tokenized, but as the responsible party for making payments, I will also need to ensure data availability. And not going into it now, there's a lot of interesting methods that crypto economics allow it to do it seamlessly, where machines can talk to each other and ensure the data is maintained, where they're incentivized financially to keep the data up to date and penalized if they don't. So that's a concept we call validation in the blockchain world. So if I continue here, you can see this is a very seamless Web 2 interface. I can verify this data is going on chain. You can always write a new contract, but we'd rather allow you to verify the information you're putting on chain is accurate. The ISRC allows us, our distribution system and Revelator, to identify which asset is getting paid. And now we're tying it basically to a smart contract. There are several standards in blockchain. We focused on ERC20, which allows DeFi protocols, which is decentralized finance, to interact and collect royalties, monitor the royalties that have been paid, and even get royalty advances. And 1155 is what you all know as NFTs. It just ensures that the artwork, the metadata, and all the information that Inder mentioned is presented nicely on Web3 wallets or different marketplaces. So people don't have to go into the different blockchain explorers and identify the ID is what matches ISRC, but they can see the artwork, the artist name, etc. You can also do any amount of splits that you want. Essentially, every token represents a fragment of the royalty share. So if I would do 100, every token will receive 1% of royalties. Usually we recommend, because this goes into different crowd projects, to have like at least 10,000 tokens. That gives you a lot of flexibility. And then as simple as this, by the way, I'm doing it now from the UI, but the whole idea is that core protocol is passing us this information that I'm going to copy here. This information is being passed directly via API. So it's basically the core protocol is sending this information directly to the Original Works platform without any human intervention in between. So I can immediately create that sounds like, sorry, there you go. Oh yeah. Yes, exactly. And then we paste in, and you see how simple it is. And in this case, again, this is information that is going to come directly via API. And then for the core protocol, which is taking directly this information on chain. And you can see this is, again, the Revelator UI who implemented this. So right now, I just immediately created new payees in the Revelator system, but they're corresponding to these wallet addresses. So Revelator knows the name of these wallets because it's a reference that I just put in. But this information, which will be on chain, is going to be completely what we call pseudonymous. So Jamie can validate his address and his rights. Somebody else seeing it might know or might not know who the identity behind the wallet is. And this is something, by the way, with the decentralized protocol that we're launching, we believe that in 6 to 9 months, we're also going to have the fully private version where we use technology called zero-knowledge proofs that Jamie will be able to prove to anybody his ownership, but it's going to be completely opaque on-chain. So on-chain, all the data is obfuscated. Now, essentially, within a minute, we're going to have it live. The UI takes a few minutes to update, so we're going to go back to see this in a few minutes. I think we can continue the panel. But that was as simple as that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for showing that and all the explanations. There's always a lot of jargon. I think we pulled through. If there's any questions, just shout. Did somebody?
No, I was testing the microphone.
Oh, you were testing the microphone.
Yeah, very quietly.
Great. I thought I did.
The microphone's loud.
So that's done now. And now we're going to turn to Alex. So Alex, if you just want to briefly introduce yourself.
We're doing the sort of spoken word version of hold music right now while that does that thing. So if we can all just sort of have a little tune in our heads as we hear me talk. So my name's Alex. I work for a company called Beatport. Does everyone know what Beatport is? Can we get some nodding heads? At least some of you, please. Okay, cool. We're about 20 years old. In fact, we're 20 years old this year. And for most of our life, we've been selling high-quality audio files to the DJ community. And we still do that today. That's right. I'm still talking about downloads in 2024. But of course, the company's evolved over time, and we now represent an awful lot of other things. So just, I guess, for a little bit of context as to why I'm here. Beatports today, it is across the entire gambit from creation. So we bought into some producer tools. We own marketplaces for plugins and the sound files that you then manipulate to create your tracks. We also bought into the kind of the next stage, which is what do you do once you've made your music? We bought a company called Label Radar, which is one of the businesses that I run now. And that helps connect record labels, right? So record labels in the room with some of the artists in the room. We do that online, and they also can connect as artists together. So you've got that sort of collaboration element kind of all going into that. And in fact, actually that platform connects with the fans as well, which is quite neat at the point of demo submission. So it's a really sort of unique platform. We also bought another platform which is relevant to this conversation, which is AmSuite. And what that is doing really is looking at the traditional music industry and all of the things that you've heard about from everybody here in terms of rights registrations, establishing that asset, doing the endpoint distribution, dealing with the royalty statements. But of course, all of that starts with the original contract, because everything you've heard today is predicated on this idea of identifying who actually owns something, who actually created something. This is where I'll pick up the conversation with Gilad in a second. Now, it's quite easy in this situation. We can see him. He's right here. He's in the middle of the stage. That's the person that can put their hand up and say, I made that. I own that. This was mine, right? Okay, cool. Perfect. Just got to check, right? Yeah, exactly. You never know people these days. And so that's quite easy. And the platform that we have essentially establishes that relationship through the very traditional format of a contract in the very sort of legalese paper format. But it's all done very seamlessly, digital signatures, elements of cryptography in that, which is quite neat. And also lots of transparency because it creates immediately a dashboard for the artists as much as the labels, and so they can see all the trend data that's coming in from all the different DSPs, as well as perhaps DJ promo feedback, for example. And so that's what I'm up to. And of course, then the end point of Beatport is the DSPs and the actual sales, and that's what is the money that comes into what these guys are talking about. And what I particularly like, if you don't mind me just giving my opinion on what you've built, is that they have, what did you call it earlier? Positive disruption or something? Frictionless disruption. Frictionless disruption. You heard it here first. That was his invention. Because of course I am horribly old and lived through, lots of that early technology. I mean, I was part of the helping create DDEX that you heard about. And lots of things have come along, and of course you typically get people coming in and going, yeah, you're all a bunch of idiots, I'm going to do this better. And you kind of go, my goodness, you're talking about 100-year-old plus industry. It's just not that simple. What these guys have done is they've created something that complements the existing infrastructure. They've not tried to disrupt it in that traditional Silicon Valley way. They've just gone in and said, actually, you know what, there's another opportunity here. And that's what I particularly like about what this product is. I do want, I suppose, just sort of turn to Gilad and just ask about kind of where is this at right now? You're saying this is pre-release. Sorry, can we get two microphones? Yep. I know that.
Thank you. So what we've launched now is the prototype, which is integrated solely through Revelator. And we're actually having our first community call next week, where we have both Revelator competitors and a few royalty societies that have kind of already signed up to start developing their own tools on top of the same registry. And that's what we essentially call this first phase. We call it proof of record. So me as a CMO or as a distributor, I can prove that my database at this day has this state about this asset and this license. And that's essentially what Revelator is showcasing now. And actually through EOL, we can actually show that if we can bring my computer back, because the asset has been essentially minted on chain. Oh, sorry, can we have the computer screen again?
Can we have the HDMI cable, please? The HDMI.
Oh, thank you very much. So you can see that basically in Revelator platform, the royalty token that we just minted a few minutes ago was created. It already has a 0x address. That it means that it's on chain. And this, as we mentioned earlier, is already in production. So now Jamie's artwork and all of the information about the rights holders can be verified on this public infrastructure, right? And as we said, it's obfuscated. So Jamie and Inder know their wallet addresses, and they can verify not using the Revelator UI, but rather this public database called the blockchain. And of course, there's also the actual admin, which is not a holder, but this allows us essentially to, as Revelator, to come in and update the records as needed. And the same exact data is also synchronized with the original works registry, where I can validate this information in a much more user-friendly way, where the splits are kept hidden. And if I connect my wallet, you can see a few cool features. And I think this is really what's exciting to us about launching this. Even before it's a fully decentralized product, we have partnered with a company called Indentura, which essentially just pooled together people in crypto who want to give out advances or loans and are looking for uncorrelated assets. So when you're an investor, a lot of your investments are tied to the US dollar, to the real estate market, to S&P. Something about music assets is really unique because music assets have an uncorrelated kind of cash flow that's fairly predictable. And we're partnering with several IP firms who allow us to give smart contracts the knowledge about estimation, where we are on the curve of revenue. And then as an artist, Jamie will be able, after having enough of, depends on the pool, but 3 to 6 months of revenue going on chain, he can connect his wallet and just ask for an advance for 3 months. And this is a very powerful thing for artists in emerging markets like Africa and LATAM, which Revelator is very much present, where, kids in Africa do an Amapiano or an Afrobeat song, and then they sell it for $100. They're really excited, and they have money to invest in their next track, but they give up total ownership, right? With this kind of solution, they can get an advance based on their actual royalties, and the smart contract will return. You remember, these are actually represented by tokens. So when I would take an advance, I literally deposit my royalty tokens into the pool. Next time Revelator will make a payment, those royalties will recoup the advance, and the smart contracts ensure that those royalties will go back to Jamie's wallet at the end of the period. So no requirements to do any LLC in between and have a lawyer be custodian of the royalties and a letter of redirection to the distributor, which is, the standard model, I'm sure you all know, with Beatport and other options. This allows the actual rights holder to have control of their assets. So that's where it is at now, but with the price of a bit less privacy, but full-on transparency.
I think what's probably quite important to point out of this thing, you heard from Maarten and Inder both reference some of the past attempts at applying this sort of technology to an industry that does struggle with certain things. What we're seeing here today, I think, is really the ability to lay the groundwork for some of those other ideas to actually become a reality. Maarten, you said earlier about some of the technology not being ready, but I would add to that to say also the data wasn't ready in the format that is required to allow for these things to actually happen. So I guess, what's next in the evolution? I mean, we know that the traditional industry suffers from asserting those rights. If you think about YouTube conflicts, just as hopefully one that some people understand in the audience. And this is where two people say, I own this thing. Now, obviously, in our example, it's really simple, nice and easy to get your head around. And in the demo, we see rights holders having that established within the UI and the tokens assigned to each of those rights holders. But, I mean, I represent a company that, for example, has a sample library and samples dance music typically, derivative form of music is made up of a lot of samples. And actually knowing who owns every bit of intellectual property can be quite tricky. You don't always know exactly the true source of it. And as these technologies get better, MRTs improve their ability to identify from an audio signal what something actually is and reference it back to a database somewhere, there's always going to be that situation where somebody comes back later on and says, actually, that record that's out and is now quite successful, which is how I know about it. Yeah, sorry, you used the sample from me and it wasn't cleared. And so is that's part of the planning for this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that touches back to how the industry is now maturing. And when I say industry, I'm talking about the blockchain music or blockchain creative rights industry. Whereas in the first wave, you would say, oh, I have a song name and maybe the ISRC as well. And that represents the real world asset. I think now it's becoming much clearer that in order to comply with reality, these contracts that we're minting are actually tied to the distributor who is responsible for monetization. So if tomorrow Jamie decides that he wants to move to another distributor, we essentially need to deprecate this contract and payments will no longer flow into it. So right now, because it's just a centralized solution owned by Revelator, you need to trust Revelator. But what we're building now with the coalition of partners is creating this data infrastructure that is also creating the financial incentives or penalties to keep the assets up to date and essentially align the incentives with the rights holders rather than the gatekeepers. And this is a process that we're not naive that, we can come up with the specs and everybody will agree. That's exactly why we decided to launch this as a nonprofit organization where any existing business can come in and influence the governance of such a protocol. So we see this as a journey that will take, at least 2-3 years to evolve, but we have both the tech and the tech and the scale to make it work and make it economical for supply chain providers.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, I think Inder also wants to say something.
Yeah, of course.
One more, Mike.
Hello. Yep. On our side, we have a dispute resolution module. So if someone uploads a stem, for example, or something like that, that passes through like a process. So like there's some steps in place so that even between like a platform like ours where a remix may come up and it may not be attributed properly, there's still processes for like, claims and dispute resolution, which then connect back up to what regulated system would be. So like just again, make sure like there's cohesion across all these platforms where on our end, someone may upload something, again, that may not be theirs like fully, and they've gone through the checks and processes, but it's still being kind of claimed again. So, I think it'll unfold over time in terms of, again, how all of these pieces work.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
If I could touch on that, I think one great thing, sometimes people hear about blockchain is, it's this magic thing that once it's on chain, then it's immutable. Of course, the data is immutable, but the fact that you actually have an audit trail, that means that disputes can be much quicker resolved because it's very clear who signed what message at what time, and it doesn't require so much, let's say, analog or manual processes and paperwork. So we're already light years ahead with the ability to digitally resolve these issues.
Something that
Your question, go.
Okay. Oh, you okay? Yeah. We almost lost somebody. So we've seen this attached to a distribution company, and we've seen the creation of a recording. And of course, as hopefully we all know, when you create a recording, and dance music is the best at doing this, forgetting that in that process you become a songwriter. And so there's an underlying composition that is created at the same time. Is there any thoughts, scope, plans for trying to achieve the same sort of tokenization of the IP in a composition?
Absolutely. So with the ISWC and the works. So that's definitely a bigger challenge because I guess since the streaming economy has completely taken over consumption, streaming royalties can now be considered digitally native, right? The invoices we get from Spotify are very much automated, connected to the play history, and with works that are being invoiced by a royalty society at the end of the year or the cycle, it's definitely much more challenging. Even the data model itself, if you ever had to deal with CWR, as much as DDEX is painful, CWR is like the old 80s bank, infrastructure. So
it arrives on a fax.
Yeah, almost. Absolutely. So we're very lucky to have two progressive royalty societies working with us. And in Spain, if you heard, there's a lot of innovation and also the traditional model is being challenged. So we're very lucky to have people both in Spain and in Brazil. Unfortunately, I don't know if I can share the names or not because we're in the process of signing them up. In any case, we are seeing the more innovative societies very much eager to accelerate payments. And actually with Kiosto in Denmark, we already did a really successful pilot 2-3 years ago.
He's one of them, Unison.
Yes.
There.
Well,
I just want to bring it away from the more technical discussions we're having now and towards sort of easy, how do I get involved in this kind of conversation? So maybe in there for you, what would be a low lift way for people to get involved with the kind of creative IP that you're working with through KOR protocol?
So I guess it depends on which side of the value chain you sit on. If you're an artist, we will have the first registration tools going live on the 21st of October. So you can create an account, basically verify your music identity, and then you can start uploading your songs into the protocol for different forms of consumption. You can immediately make them remixable in platforms like Chorus, where they'll be able to then be distributed, and those remixes can be monetized in DSPs thanks to the original works protocol. You'll also be able to turn them into basically interactive, like playable formats in games. We have a distribution network of a couple hundred games that we've partnered with, in-house games and then third-party products. So the first step, 21st October, you can pretty much start to create your account and register your assets if you're a rights holder. If you're a artist who maybe wants to remix someone else's music and kind of play around with the tools more as a fan or something else. The tools are live today. We have multiple products in the market, a couple 100,000 users, 150,000 monthly users right now, who are basically making remixes and minting those remixes on the blockchain. So you could go to play.chorus.co or come find me. I'll send you the link and then basically try them. But the main thing is 21st October, that all the public tools are available. And then if you're a developer, the dev docs also go live on the same date. So you could also pretty much build new products on this infrastructure from the middle of this month.
That's one of the goals, right? To get people to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So Jamie, you have various audiences, and if we can talk about two of them. One is a crypto audience, so it's people who know you because you've released music as NFTs and all that sort of stuff. And then you have people who just found your music on Spotify, like it, DM you on Instagram. Do you think something like this can at some point bring those audiences closer together?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been my process. I funded my project mainly through people that understand crypto because there's an audience of people who are just into new stuff and new ideas in that community. And that makes them very open to oh, here's an interesting thing. Let me get involved in this. And that language, even though the intention is there in normal music fans, what I found the language they speak is very rigid in that supporting an artist to me is is a comment that takes a lot of energy, and that says a lot to those people. But what we're kind of trying to understand now is what that means for the I guess the sustainability of creative careers is that how do we transfer that intention into something that helps musicians keep to earn money, or labels or these other institutions around music, because the value is being captured by big tech companies, and advertising. So we're trying to work those things out. And I guess my first project, it was a lot of people were involved for an emotional reason, and some people were involved to try and help invest in the project. And that brought those two worlds closer together. And I think things like this make it more seamless and more approachable, and more understandable. It's we're kind of creating new languages, which takes a lot of work as an artist, because I'm saying you have to come out of social media and come to this place. But here's something of value you get. And in that process, the less friction there is, the better, because people do not like friction at the moment. They understand a thing, it's called Instagram, or it's called TikTok, or it's whatever one they use, and they use it a certain way. So you're constantly trying to teach people new languages. That's the only way I can really refer it, is just to say to them, I appreciate your like, and I appreciate that you listen to the song, but what about this? And out of those 10 people you say that to, you've got 2 or 3 that want to explore more. And the less friction there is for those people, the more fun it is for those people, the stronger that bond is, the better that experience is, and the more kind of open they are to new things. And so a project like this is very, people understand it, right? We understand what a remix is. We understand a lot of the time that we can't make music that we'd like to. People are starting to understand that they can make images with AI, right? And they can do things they couldn't do before with filters and Instagram. And now we're starting that music conversation. And this allows it to happen, I guess, on my terms, but also in my artistic world, my sonic world, my identity, and retain some of that emotional connection and intention to me as an artist, rather than another faceless platform.
Cool. Thank you. We're coming up to the end of this first hour, so the bar is open. We're going to get drinks. There's going to be plenty of time to talk with these guys, but I just wanted to throw it open to a Q&A more officially while we're seated here on these nice chairs on stage. So if there's anybody who has a question or comment or wants something clarified, feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, oh yeah, cool. Oh, you got the microphone there. Thank you. Just introduce yourself and yeah.
Hi, I'm Taka Suzuki from Japan, and I'm building the music tech ecosystem in Japan and global. And one of my initiatives building the community platform based on the blockchain, and then emphasize and the collaboration beyond the border with the Japanese independent artists. And then, so if some collaboration happens, so the token will be rewards for the collaboration. For example, like from the buy me a beer things, next time things, to the like offshore guarantee fee for the collaboration. So my question is, do you think there's any angle to how we collaborate with the core protocol or with this community platform?
From my side, for sure. And I know Taka, he's a legend, by the way. This is the guy you need to speak to if you want to get into Japan. Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, the beauty of it is that it's all decentralized, right? Like, in everything that we're building out here is once the first smart contracts are out, anyone can build on top of these tools and start to create their own integrations and use cases. And I think it's really what's the most important part of all of this kind of ecosystem unfolding is that a few companies may kind of build like the initial tooling, but then it's really the community who come in, kind of take in completely new directions and, show all these new use cases and more. So from my side, I mean, I think that's the main thing I want to get like as a takeaway. It's all decentralized. Like on our side, 21st October, those smart contracts are out there. They're open source. You can do whatever you want with them. There's no fees to like build on top of it. And once, all of these tools start connecting up, then I think we end up having almost the pieces of like the next generation kind of infrastructure and network between, all of the different stakeholders.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Way at the back. Can you come towards the microphone? The cameramen are helping out. Thank you.
Hi, thank you first very much for the good presentation, and it was really informative for me. I'm Peter of NDSM Music, and I have a music company, and I'm starting also a record label, NDSM Records. I was wondering, like, when you're an artist, before you get to Revelator, do you need to transfer rights to Revelator, or what does Revelator need from an artist to proceed in this journey?
With the context of the music distribution, we don't transfer the rights, you just delegate the collection rights. So Revelator, as a distributor, essentially packages the audio and metadata and is responsible to deliver it to all the streaming platforms and UGC platforms. And then at the end of the month, we collect the royalties, but there's no assignment. So we are just, I think, legally, the legal term is royalty administrators. So you just give us the right to collect on your behalf. And until today, we pay traditionally, whether through PayPal or any other settlement provider. And now with smart contracts, settlements are going to happen immediately directly to the artist wallet. And by the way, it's going to happen in what we call stable coins. So USDC, which is pegged to the US dollar, which is another advantage, by the way, in developing economies where there's a lot of inflation. They can keep the royalties until they want to cash out. But the artist, all they have to do is assign us as the distributor. And from there, everything is automated. And of course, within 3 to 6 months, we're going to have at least 2 other distributors that you can choose from. So our goal with Original Works is to have as many distributors as possible so artists can also migrate much easier because of everything that Inder said, becoming standardized and composable. Then there shouldn't be a problem for you to migrate because you're using the same data set.
Thank you very much. So basically also when you are at a record label, then you still have the commercial part and also the part that you do the marketing for the artist. Is there also a place within Revelator for the record label?
Absolutely. We have very few independent artists who use our platform. The majority are white label distributors, so other distributors who use our infrastructure. But we definitely have quite a lot of record labels who just onboard their entire catalog to our DDEX or our pipelines. And then it's just an assignment of royalty administration.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. I think we're going to go... Sorry. Oh, okay. I think we're gonna go grab a drink, unless there is one more question. No. Then let's grab a drink. They are free at the bar. The bar is open. Thank you guys very much. We'll all stick around, so feel free to walk up, ask questions, talk amongst yourselves or with us. Thank you.